Hi, sentient beings. Normally I make like a list of beings you might be, like hello, humans or non-humans or alien beings tonight. Instead of making the list, although I guess I just kind of half made the list tonight, I'm going to just say, hello, sentient beings, beings with sentience, beings who are conscious. We could also say samsarins, but I'm not going to assume that you are not bodhisattvas, that you are I'm not going to assume that you're trapped in samsara. So I won't call you a samsaran, but I will say sentient beings. Hello, hello. My earthly name, they call this earthly vessel Michael Taft, at least on this planet. And which is one way of interpreting the term earthly. And I'm here with you this evening, or whenever you're watching this, to do some guided meditation. We're going to do something really fun tonight. So let's jump right in. What I'd like to have you do is take your seat, your meditation seat, and get ready to do the thing. So as usual, I want you to, if you're sitting in a chair, scooch away from the back of the chair. Allow your back to hold up your back instead of the chair to hold up your back. But hopefully you're sitting on a meditation cushion, one that has your knees lower than your hips. And that makes sitting up straight really easy so that you're not doing it with so much effort. But you can also lay down, you can also stand. Just be comfortable and alert. And normally we do kind of a long section of resource gathering. And sometimes, as you know, if you've been doing these meditations, I like doing the ones where we have like a kind of a image for sitting. Sometimes we sit like a mountain, sometimes we sit like an ocean, that kind of thing. Tonight we're going to do a whole sequence of those. So let's just, we're going to kind of skip the resource gathering because in a way the whole meditation is resource gathering. Okay, or at least 3/4 of it. So we're going to really be focusing on that part tonight. So just settle in. And I want you to remember and bring up for yourself, why are you meditating? Why did you make the time to come here and meditate? What is your reason for meditating? Get that clear. That helps to brings a little more energy, a little more intention to the sit. So just state that aloud to yourself. Unless you're in the room with other people, then silently state it to yourself. And then what I'd like you to do is let's just spend maybe a few minutes just meditating on breathing. So we're just going to do simple shamatha with the breath, just to all kind of join together here and to begin kind of allowing the system to settle, to gather, to kind of come together, to integrate. So what I want you to begin doing is simply breathing in and breathing out, and in a very gentle, light, easy way, following that body sensation of breathing in and breathing out. We're going to do this for about 5 minutes, and then we'll get going with kind of the main meat of the meditation here. If you want to, and only if it's comfortable, I'd like you to do deep belly breathing during this part, not like pranayama, but just deep belly breathing and with long out breaths. Even if you don't do the deep belly breathing, see if your out breaths can be longer than your in breaths. These are usually done with through the nose, breathing in and breathing out in the nose, but you breathe in and then long out breaths. And one way to make this easier is to do the ujjayi breath, the Darth Vader breath. So on that out breath, you do the thing that makes your voice do that. But of course, you're not speaking, but it's the thing that makes your voice do that. And you're just breathing that way. And that allows you to regulate the speed of the out breath, and you can make it nice and long. And of course, this goes without saying, don't do it in any way that's uncomfortable. Don't make yourself get out of breath or something like that. Do it in a way that's easy, a way that's healthy, a way that doesn't strain the system. Okay, so short in breath or regular in breath, and then long, 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 long out breath. And you're just staying with that. If you want, you can use a label to help you stay with it. So breathing in, and then breathing out, breathing out, breathing out, breathing out, and really feel that in breath and feel that out breath. So let's do this for a little while together. And just stay with that feeling of the in breath and stay with the feeling of the out breath, really allowing it to settle everything and uh, allow you to feel integrated and collected and grounded. Okay, good. And now, just for a moment, like 1 minute, I want you to just open up to um, the already existing, naturally present, vast spaciousness of your own awareness. So just relax as open awareness, not forcing it to be open, but allowing yourself to just notice that awareness itself is naturally boundless, vast, open, at ease, bright, clear, and so on. And just notice that for just a little while here. Okay, good. Now we're going to go through a 5 element meditation here. That's going to be the start. We'll do a little bit at the end, but we'll start out with a 5 element meditation. So we're going to begin, and I want you to sit like a mountain. So this is, of course, the earth element. And the earth element, in this way of thinking about elements, again, these are the traditional elements. So there's just 5: earth, air, fire, water, space. And so we begin with earth. Sit like a mountain. And so I want you to tune in to the sense of tremendous groundedness, tremendous stability, to a sense of integration and cohesion, right? So sit like a mountain. There's this kind of immovability. And so with this earth energy, we feel our scattered mind becoming unscattered and collected. We feel our kind of like maybe energies that are all over the place coming into cohesion. The earth element has that sense of gravity, things coming together and clumping and stabilizing and becoming integrated and solid. So sitting like a mountain also has this sense of permanence and stability and even nobility, right? So begin by sitting like a mountain, whatever that means to you. And let's work with that element first. this earth energy, this sitting like a mountain is great, as I said, if you feel scattered or you feel off balance. Just tuning into the pull of gravity and the solidity and stability of the earth element. Remembering the body has a lot of earth element, and it's very soothing and stabilizing, very collecting and connecting. So just notice how good it feels to sit like a mountain, the earth energy. Okay, very good. That's sitting like a mountain, the earth element. Now we'll go to the next sort of least, uh, we'll go to the next element in order, and that's the water element. And so the image here is to sit like an ocean, a calm ocean. And when we sit with the water element, we feel the sense of calmness, we feel the sense of fluidity, and we feel a deep sense of peace and comfort and ease. Water is effortless. Okay, and of course, it's a vast ocean of water. And of course, your body itself is mainly water, right? It's mostly water. And The blood moving in your veins can be considered water. There's the lymph. There's all the various fluids. But even our mind has a water element of this sense of deep fluidity and peace and ease and comfort and effortlessness. So now sit like an ocean, tuning into these qualities. And so just notice the soothing, comforting qualities of this water, the fluid, easeful, effortlessness of it, and of course, the vastness of the ocean of water. Okay, good. So we sat like a mountain with the earth element, and then we sat like an ocean with the water element. The next element is fire. Remember last week we sat as fire. Um, and the image here, usually I would use the sun. If you want, you can use the sun like a ball of fire, or you can use something pleasant like a campfire or a fire in a fireplace. Whatever works for you as an image of fire. And fire is a wonderful element to meditate as it's the essence of joy and creativity and inspiration. And of course, fire is very purifying and it's very mobile, right? So it has this real sense of creative joy, creative inspiration, but also a sense of purification. So sit as a fire and also feel that warmth and the comfort of fire, right? It's very wonderful. So enjoy the fire element either as like a campfire or even something like the sun. In the history of meditation practice, fire has been a really important element, really important image, again, for purification, but also the whole idea of meditation is sometimes compared to a fire. It's the fire in which we burn off the impurities or burn off the dross, leaving this tremendous energy of fire, the joy of fire, and the warmth and comfort of fire. So, sitting as a fire is very powerful. feeling the joy of that fire meditation. We now move to an even lighter, so to speak, element, which is air. So, with air, I want you to imagine being wind, a gentle breeze, or even a strong wind. And the air element um, is all about movement, it's about flexibility. Again, if we imagine this kind of boundless wind with a sort of energy of movement, energy of change, this is very powerful, especially if you feel stuck or you feel depressed or you feel like down. This energy of air is very uplifting. It gets things moving again. And of course, in Tantrism, in yoga and so on, this is the element that we would call prana, right? The element that we would call chi or lung. It's the really important element for a lot of spiritual practice, a lot of meditation practice. So sitting like the wind and feeling that movement and change and flexibility is very impermanent, just like the fire, really impermanent feeling element. And this gives you the ability to change. It gives you the ability to move, and also energizes the whole body in a really pleasant way. So let's notice this energy of air. So meditating like the wind. When we tune into the energy of air, when we meditate like the wind, This brings a lot of equanimity because we are flexible. We can handle whatever's coming up because we have flexibility and the ability to change and move. So the wind element can, and meditating like the wind or the air element, it can bring tremendous sense of equanimity. Even with all the movement, all the change, there's this feeling of like, yeah, we can roll with that. Okay, good. And that's the air element, meditating like the wind. And now let's do my favorite, meditating like space, like infinite, unbounded space, the fifth element in this tradition. And when we meditate like space, we are noticing that there is boundlessness, there's room, and there's a real sense of openness and acceptance of everything. We can um, we can notice that space is special, right? All the other elements exist in space and arise in space and pass in space, and space is the closest element to just pure awareness itself. So meditate like vast, boundless space and notice that there's just room, there's just enough room for everything. And we can handle whatever's arising because there's just so much openness. Space is accommodating, right? Everything in the world, whether it's good or bad or big or small or hot or cold or whatever, it's all given space, right? It has enough space to be. So space has this tremendous quality of accommodation and openness and a kind of, again, just a kind of a sense of room for everything. So now just sit like space, like vast spaciousness. Notice how peaceful and how much ease it brings to sit as this vast space. Just allowing everything, being with everything, totally open, totally free. Vast space. Okay, good. Now let's move from the five elements directly into awareness itself, which remember is very much like space. I always say vast, spacious awareness, right? So, in other words, we let go of these elemental ideas, we let go of any visualization or any imagination, and just rest in our nature as vast, spacious awareness. Now, uh, what's the difference between space and awareness? Space is non-conscious, but awareness, of course, is what consciousness is. That it is conscious, but in every other way, it's very much like space. So it's vast, spacious, but awake. It is awake. It's aware. It's experiencing. So now I want you to just sit as awareness itself, not engaging with anything, not uh, grabbing onto anything, simply resting as your deep nature, which is awareness itself. Wide awake, wide aware, bright and clear. Remember, the idea here is to not get involved with anything. Awareness itself allows for everything, allows all the elements, allows for thoughts, allows for feelings, allows the world to arise, but it is not involved with anything. So if you find yourself getting involved, just drop that. Come back to just resting in your nature as vast, spacious awareness. Awareness itself is like a mirror. Everything is reflected in it, but none of the reflection, none of the things reflected actually disturb the mirror or change the mirror in any way. There can be every kind of scene going by. There could be a nighttime scene, a daytime scene, lots of people know people, forest and animals, cityscapes with skyscrapers, all that, all reflected in the mirror, and the mirror is uninvolved with any of them, unchanged by any of them, and yet perfectly reflecting, perfectly clear. So sit as vast, spacious awareness with this sense of unaffectedness, this sense of uninvolvement. Okay, good. Now, within this awareness, notice that space is there. Space is arising. The element of space is there. There's room, there's spaciousness, there is accommodation, right? So we have space there. And also notice that the element of air is there, the movement, the change, the wind, the sense of the ability to unstick, that impermanence is there. And also, of course, the energy of wind, tremendous energy. So within awareness, there's the space, there's the air, and then there's the fire element, that kind of joy and inspiration and creativity, the warmth and the purification of fire. Okay. We can feel the air that we're breathing with our body. We can feel the warmth of our body, right? We can feel the space in our body that allows the warmth and the air that we're breathing to be there. And then we feel the water element, right? We feel the our blood, and we feel the fluidity of our body, and also this sense of comfort and ease, and that real sense of effortlessness of the water. And then there is the earth element, the stability, our bones and our weight, and that sense of cohesion and groundedness and connectedness and stability and solidity that is so characteristic of the earth element. So within awareness, all these 5 elements are present, and just sit with that now, feeling them integrate, feeling them interact in an ideal manner. They're just uh, um, flowing into each other and changing into one another and balancing, so that we have just within ourselves a perfect harmony of these elements. Good. Now let's let all of these elements come together with a sense of joy and inspiration, and a sense of freedom and openness and movement, and a sense of connectedness, and a sense of ease and openness, and beam out love and joy to the whole world, beaming out, radiating out a sense of inspiration and creativity and aliveness to the world, beaming out a sense of healing and strength to the world, and beaming out a sense of um, equanimity and openness and accommodation to the world. So that we're really, really just feeling how all of these 5 elements arising within awareness are just streaming out to the entire universe, to the multiverse, to every sentient being in the multiverse to whom all these meditations are freely given. We beam out this joy, this healing, this sense of peace and ease, creativity, inspiration, groundedness, openness, the ability to change, the ability to purify. We're wishing the whole universe and every being in the universe, the whole multiverse and every being in the multiverse, we're wishing them well, including ourselves. I want you to just radiate out, beam out, flow with that energy now. Okay, good. Let's end the meditation now. That was a nice meditation, right? It's good to connect with these uh, elements. So allow your body to get comfy and move and stretch and feel yourself moving. The body loves to move. Even though in meditation, when we're doing this kind of meditation, I'd like you to remain very, very, very still. When we're done meditating, then we get into the joy of movement, at least a little bit. Allow your body to just do what it needs to do. Don't get in the way. Don't prescribe what you think it should do, but feel into what it wants to do. And maybe have a drink of water. The white one is water. So we will have some water here. There's a little bit of lemon in it too. That's very nice. And so let's talk about this for a minute. So, of course, even though I'm calling these the elements in modern English, these are not elements, right? Elements are things like beryllium and cobalt. But in the ancient way of speaking, these are elements, the ancient meaning of the term. And of course, these terms change over time. Like, for example, the term planet, right now, it has a very specific meaning, not the sun or the moon. A planet has a very defined thing. But originally, planet comes from the Greek word planetos, which just means something that's moving in the sky, because planetos means wanderer. So something that's moving in the sky, and specifically it meant, stuff that's moving against the background, the supposedly fixed background of the stars. So originally the meaning was much more open, just like the word energy, right? Originally, now it's got a very specific definition, highly precise, mathematical, blah, blah, blah. But of course, in years and centuries gone by, we could use the word energy in a much more open way. The definition is a lot looser, and the same with elements. So I'm using an earlier, looser definition it's a little bit more like what we would now call states of matter, right? So there's solid and liquid and gas, and that would be earth and water and air, right? And then there'd be but now, unfortunately, and fire is the energy, right? And space is still the room for it to happen. It's like space-time. So that's kind of a fun semi bullshit translation of how we could think about what we mean by these elements now. But of course, it's more of just a way of thinking about some different states of mind, some different states of our own internal space, and maybe even the external space again with these states of matter. The problem is now there's new states of matter like plasma and super ionic ice, all kinds of stuff that don't really fit. People keep discovering new states of matter, so it doesn't really fit the 5-element scheme either. So we're just going to say the 5-element scheme is its own thing, right? It's its own imaginary way of considering the world, and it's actually quite pleasant way and a useful way and kind of a creative and interesting way to think about things. When we do, each time when we start a meditation, very often we only do one of these. So I wanted to have a meditation tonight where we do all of them together and feel how they integrate and also feel how they exist within awareness itself. And that's a powerful thing. If we were doing traditional practices like tantric style practices, we use the elements in very specific ways. If we're doing even further back, like shamanic practices, we use the elements in a different way. If we're doing non-dual, like meditation traditions, we can even use the elements in a third way, right? And we did some of that tonight, where notice when we went to awareness, the elements are there, but now we're not using them as kind of states of mind. We're saying there are things that are arising within awareness itself. And so there's kind of different ways, or we could say different levels at which we're engaging this idea of the ancient elements, or this more open way of thinking about elements. And of course, there's even using them psychologically, like, oh, I feel depressed, so I'm going to meditate on air because that gives me freedom and movement, and it kind of loosens things up, because depression can feel like a kind of stuckness. Or I'm feeling sort of flat and dull and uninspired, so let's bring in some fire element because that's inspiration and creativity and it's got energy. Or I'm feeling all scattered and my brain is in 600 places. Oh, hey, let's bring the earth element that has that cohesion and collectedness and stability. Or I feel like I'm working too hard and everything is difficult. And so let's bring in water, the water element, which is effortless and has that sense of ease and comfort. Or everything's just too up in my face. I'm anxious because there's just too much going on and there's no time to respond and everything's too. And so let's bring in the space, because in the space, there's just more than enough room for everything to happen. So that's kind of a psychological way to work with these. There's just so many levels and so many techniques and so many ways that we can creatively play with this idea of these 5 elements. So I'm not suggesting that this is, the one true way of viewing the world or something, but it is a wonderful way to work, and it's very good for meditation, very good also psychologically, as a metaphor, but also as sort of like properties to take on. We can see where we're imbalanced and take on these elemental properties, at least as a imagination exercise. So there you have it, some 5-element meditation. And if you go way back, I haven't done this for a while, but if you go way back to the mandala meditation that we have done in the past on these YouTube videos, we can make those work together too. That becomes very interesting, remember we have the mandala with the 5 quadrants. Well, there's a reason it's 5 quadrants, because those quadrants match elements and we can take on those properties as well. So it gets really interesting. It's kind of a thing to help organize our practice, but also just a fun way to play with life and to play with experience, right? So there you have it. I think the point I was making while we were meditating that I want to come back to is that space is kind of the super element. All the other elements arise in space, and then awareness is outside of the elements, but it's most like space, but of course it is also conscious. And so we can say all of those 5 elements, even though the 4 elements arise in space, all 5 of them arise in awareness. And we can just like everything, experience itself is arising in awareness. The sense of our personality, the sense of our body arises in awareness. The sense of stuff happening outside arising in awareness. So all of that comes back to everything arising in awareness. And if we go much more deeply, we can say even all the things arising in awareness are not separate or different from awareness, right? So there's a much deeper teaching available there as we start to learn to contact awareness. It's funny when I say contact awareness, because what is it? My question, this is my koan for you. What is it that contacts awareness? I often use that phrase, hey, we're contacting awareness, or we're stabilizing our contact with awareness. But if you think about it deeply, who or what is contacting awareness? And when you do that, and of course, the kind of typical answer, the easy answer is, well, I am. But what do you mean when you say I? Because, of course, the teaching here, at least part of the teaching, is that, typically when we say I, we mean my thoughts and feelings and maybe my body, but really deeply my emotions and my thoughts. That's me. Because you could, for example, lose an arm in an accident, and that would be tragic. So part of your body's removed, but really your thoughts and feelings are still you, right? You wouldn't think of that as changing the essence of your being, no matter how much it changed your life. So even though we do tend to think of the body as us, even more deeply, we think of the thoughts and emotions as us. But this is one of the first things you learn in meditation. The thoughts are just changing and moving all the time. Those can't be you. The emotions are just changing and moving all the time. That's not you. So who is you? Right? Who is you? If anything, it's the awareness in which the thoughts and feelings are arising. And of course, there's problems if we try to settle on awareness as a solid thing, but where in fact it's empty. But still, there's a big move to see, oh, when I say I'm connecting with awareness, we kind of have to get it that it's awareness that's connecting with awareness, and awareness was never separate from itself. So when we, quote, connect with awareness, all we're really doing is relaxing into what's already there. That's why I kept saying our natural, already existing being as awareness, right? That's always there. All we do is relax into that. You don't make that happen. You don't really connect with it. You don't somehow become aware of awareness. You're already aware. That's the essence of your being. If there is an essence, it's awareness itself. Funny, because essence is another way of talking about elements, but I mean it in a different way, right? All right, so let's take some questions here. So if you have reports or questions, throw them in the chat window. Or, of course, if you're watching this asynchronously, 100 years in the future, just pop them, assuming that YouTube will still be around 100 years in the future. Pop it in the comment section, and if I'm still around in 100 years, I will answer it. So let's see. Heather says, interestingly, I couldn't do the fire element tonight because I had just watched an intense show on the Australian bushfires. So I just stayed with water. That's funny, Heather. I was thinking of the Australian bushfires myself when I said, you just want to meditate on like a nice campfire. Because especially lately, meaning the last year or two, there's been some really, I live in California, and there's intense forest fires that are really destructive. And then there's the terribly destructive and sad forest fires in Australia. So all of these elements, right? We can have floods, those are destructive. We can have huge windstorms or tornadoes. In America, we just had some tornadoes fairly recently, super destructive. All of these elements have their destructive qualities, right? You could have a landslide. You could have things, what would be the destructiveness of space? Things decohering and dissolving into space. So all of them, of course, can have a destructive side. So yeah, I relate to the fact that sometimes, especially in the media, fire can seem like sad or dangerous or whatever. So we want to cultivate positive images of each element that we can go to in a way that feels positive. So yeah, no, I feel you. Let me do something with my phone here really quick. It's talking to me. Sorry about that. There we go. All done. Okay, next question from In Medias Res. Apparently asking this question from the year 2122. I'm curious if you have any experience with plant medicines or ceremonial ceremonial exploration of consciousness. I see this as not sure what that last part is. Do I have any experience with plant medicines or ceremonial exploration of consciousness? Oh my God, no, I've never done such a thing in my life. All I'll say is, of course. But once we go in that direction, okay, here's the rest of the question. I see that as an important part of humanity's awakening and our coming together and transcending our differences. Yeah, a lot of people who have those kind of experiences start to get kind of feeling like this is the one true answer. And for some of us, some of the time, they can be very helpful. That's all I'll say about that tonight. Not for everyone all the time. Spencer Houston says, appreciate the meditations, Michael. Bow back. I appreciate you being here tonight, Spencer. This may be a controversial question, but what do you think of experiencing something like psychedelic visuals like while meditating? It depends on what you mean, Spencer. If you say psychedelic-like, meaning you're sober and these visuals are arising, well, that's kind of normal in many meditation traditions. But if you're mixing your meditation with your psychedelics, I think that's really problematic. And let's just do one experiment at a time. So my answer to your question hinges on the word psychedelic-like. Okay. Yeah. So while sober, sure, psychedelic-like visions or visuals certainly happen for lots of people. If you've noticed, if you've been doing these meditations with me for years here on YouTube, or for a while anyway, I've been on here for years, but if you've been doing them at least for a few months, you may notice that we don't do a lot of that type stuff, but it's certainly a whole aspect of at least some types of meditation that there's a lot of visuals. I tend to have very easy time getting a lot of visuals if I allow that or go in that direction. And sometimes that can be very powerful, very helpful, very beautiful. So I'm not against that in any way. It's just that sometimes if we're doing another form of meditation, then those can get in the way. For example, if you're doing shamatha with an object and you're trying to be with a particular object, let's say the breath, and then you're getting all these crazy visuals, that's actually can be distracting, right? So we want to make sure that the visuals are not just intruding into all the other meditations, right? We want to have some choice and control over how we're doing our sit. 40 Night says, I'm having trouble grasping the concept of awareness. Maybe that is to be expected. Well, it's only to be expected if you're trying to grasp it as a concept. I mean, awareness is the most obvious thing in the world. So are you having an experience right now? Yes or no? If you're aware of anything happening, like anything, that's awareness, right? So take away all the stuff that's happening and just get to the thing that's the same in every experience, which is the fact of experience itself, the awakeness, that's awareness. It's not a hard concept. It's the only thing that makes it difficult for some people some of the time is it's too obvious, right? If you removed awareness, let's put it this way, if you removed awareness from all experiences, every different kind of experience in your whole life, there would be no experience. No matter what was happening, there's zero experience. Awareness, suddenly there's every different kind of experience. So it's not a hard concept. The fact that you can watch me talking on YouTube right now, that's because of awareness. The fact that you can feel your feelings right now, that's because of awareness, right? What we don't want to do with awareness in terms of meditation, in terms of spirituality, or our deepening of our understanding is we don't want to make it into an object. We want to remember that awareness is not an object. It's because objects are things arising in awareness, right? And so awareness itself is not an object. So don't make it into a thing like God or something. It's just the flow of experience. That's awareness. Okay, good. So time-wise, we're going to let go of the questions now, but thank you for all your questions. I appreciate it. It's very fun for me to come on here and be a arrogant know-it-all and pretend I know all the answers, which I don't. But in any case, it's fun to pretend I do. Now we're going to switch into me talking about the alembic. Right, so let's talk tonight first about the alembic. The alembic is the new meditation center and yoga center and movement center and consciousness center, visionary arts center that we have created in Berkeley and are in the process of continuing to create. We just occupied the space starting last month, and now we're really getting into the flow of getting everything in place for the meditation center and the yoga center and the science center and the visionary arts center and the community center to come together. It's called the alembic, right? And an alembic is a cool word from alchemy, right? So notice that both of those words start with al because they both come from Arabic. So it's really alchemy, which we think of as one word, is really alchemy, right? And al means the. Alchemy. Interestingly, that chem comes from the Coptic word for Egypt, chemet, which means the land with the black soil, right, around the Nile, not the desert, but that beautiful, rich soil that allowed the ancient Egyptian culture and civilization to thrive, right? So that black earth was considered to be the essence, right, of the place. So that's alchem. So alchemy comes from the word meaning just the Egyptian science, because of course the original alchemy was done in the Hellenistic age in Egypt, right after Alexander the Great took over there. And one of the things that was invented in Alexandria, Egypt at that time is a thing called an alembic. An alembic, the embic, which just means still. It's a pot that you heat up liquids in which to distill something, right? And the alembic was invented by an early alchemist, a woman. I believe her name is Mary of Alexandria, but I'll look that up. I can't remember, but I remember that it's a woman, and she actually made some drawings that we still have of alembics, because she was doing distillation. And so alembic means the still. But what we're getting at with that title, why do we call it the alembic, is because in the kind of like mystical, magical science of alchemy, it's not really a science, but it's, let's say, the art of alchemy. The alembic is the sacred vessel of transformation. It's the container, right? If you're going to go through a big change, you need a vessel, you need a container so that you can fall apart in a way, and the container holds the pieces together while they all rearrange and come back together. A really common metaphor for an alembic or this kind of sacred vessel is the chrysalis that a butterfly goes into, right? So a butterfly is a caterpillar, it's cruising along, it's eating leaves, it's doing its caterpillar thing. But when it needs to change into a butterfly, it's got to basically dissolve. Caterpillars just dissolve. So it can't do that just sitting on a branch. It will just, turn into muck on the branch, and a mouse will come along and lick up the juice or whatever. So instead, it makes a vessel, it makes a chrysalis and gets inside it, or actually it weaves the chrysalis around itself. And then it basically, watch this on YouTube, it's really amazing. It just dissolves in there. It just dissolves into like DNA soup, and then rebuilds its entire body into a butterfly body and comes out transformed. So that's a metaphor for this sacred vessel of transformation, and that's a metaphor for what we're doing at the Alembic. Of course, we don't mean, hey, it's a place to come and fall apart. We mean it's a place where the community and the teachings and even the building itself can provide a container for spiritual transformation, for psychological transformation, for personal and even community transformation. And what do we mean by transformation? It doesn't just mean change, right? It means positive change, right? Beautiful change. So that's what the Alembic is all about. It's a sacred vessel for transformation. So that's why it's called that. And that's a nonprofit organization. So if you feel like contributing to help getting the Alembic going, we're trying to, we need to get a lot of stuff. As I've said in the recent weeks, we need to buy cushions, and we need to buy meditation cushions, and we need to buy chairs, and we need to buy a giant audiovisual system, and there's a lot of stuff that we need to fully get the place ready to open. We're not opening yet, mainly because of COVID, but also, there's still a lot to do in the building. So if you'd like to support the Alembic with a donation, Katie has put the link there in the chat window. Okay, so that's my spiel for the Alembic. There's also me, Michael Taft, just doing these videos. If you'd like to contribute to me for these videos on YouTube, feel free to put the contribution, to use the link that Katie's about to put in the chat window to do the contributions for these meditations. And of course, you don't have to contribute. You're very welcome to do these guided meditations completely for free. Always, always, always. But if you'd like, so in recent weeks, I've gotten some very kind, generous donations for these YouTube videos. If you're one of those donors, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It really helps me do these. So if you'd like to donate to support my work, then you do that at this other link. Normally, now I would go into a whole spiel about all the free stuff I have available. I'm not going to do that tonight, but I do want you to remember that in 2 nights, Saturday night, we're going to do Death Sangha. Death Sangha is my favorite event. We get really garish and down and dirty and wild and crazy doing meditation on death. So if you feel up for it, come to Death Sangha. We make you sign up in advance for Death Sangha because it's a Zoom meeting, and also because we want you to read the description and understand that it's intense, it's triggering. It's not for you if you're feeling kind of off balance right now. It's really intense, and it's that way on purpose. So we make you sign up on Eventbrite. So there's an Eventbrite link there that Katie put in the window. I hope you'll come to Death Sangha. You don't have to wear makeup this time or a mask like we did on Halloween. You're welcome to. You're always welcome to show up looking like a corpse. I love that. But for the non-Halloween Death Sanghas, there's no costume requirement. And hopefully, once we, not even hopefully, once we get in the Alembic, we're going to do Death Sangha in person again, which is really, really, really exciting. Unfortunately, we don't stream Death Sangha to the world usually. So maybe we'll do different in-person ones and online ones or something. We'll figure it out. But I'm hoping that if you're in the Bay Area, in the future, you'll come to some of the in-person, the IRL Death Sanghas. So let's just do 1 minute of silent guided meditation, silent unguided meditation here together right now. Okay, that's our minute of final meditation together for this evening. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. It's always a tremendous pleasure to have the honor to offer these guided meditations to you. I hope to see you next week here on YouTube. I also hope to see you when we open the Alembic very, very soon in person. Come to Berkeley, come to California, join us for live meditation in person there. Coming soon. All right, everybody. Bye-bye.